Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello.
I would like to thank our audience for being here as well, our studio audience. We have a couple people in the studio. Hi, everyone. And we have mostly people on Zoom. I also want to thank Castleton and CUC Me for sponsoring this wonderful, amazing, dynamic event. And first, I want to say that I would like to acknowledge that we are all on unceded lands, and we want to thank the Native Indigenous people for caring for and stewarding this land, and so that we have this opportunity today. And most importantly, I would love to thank my amazing panelists. I have been looking forward to meeting these beautiful women for so long. So I would like to start off with introducing each, how about we introduce ourselves? Well, would you like that? Okay,
Sure.
So I'll start with me. I'm Tina Cook. I'm your moderator for today. Let me just stop touching my mic. How about we go from the corner all the way around?
Sure.
Start there.
Okay.
Awesome, Miss Tawana.
Hello, I'm Tawana Anderson, and I am from Vermont, born and raised. Happy to be here, excited, nervous, but so humbled and honored.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Lisa Ryan. I was raised and grew up in Rutland, Vermont. I'm so happy to be in a space where I have folks who look like me and are doing really powerful work in the community. And I'm super excited for this event today.
Hi, Sadia Lamont, and I'm from Lamoille County, and I'm just honored and humbled to be here as well. This is such to be on the stage with so many powerful women out here doing this work, courageous women. It's an honor and a privilege. Thank you very much.
So tonight's discussion, or this afternoon's
We have
discussion.
Selena.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I've got to remember that. See, I know this is cool. We're doing something really different. We have a member via Zoom as well, Miss Celine.
Celine.
Would you like to introduce yourself as well? She's gonna unmute. Nope, not yet. Okay, well, let me read a little bit about Miss Celine's bio, it'd probably be better, and then she can fill us in if she's able to. So Celine is a proud mama, her greatest achievements and motivation for all she does. Celine moved to Vermont in 2019 to read the law. She's currently enrolled at Boston University for paralegal studies, and she is the first African American female to serve on Down Street Housing Board of Trustees. So super excited to have you here. I'm hoping you'll be able to join in on the chat soon. So why don't we start with what the topic of discussion today is about. So it's about microaggressions that Black women have to face in general. So racism and sexism is compounded for Black women. And Black women tend to be, highly educated. So I'm finding the studies are showing that the higher we move up in our careers, the more the microaggressions start coming down. And what I'd like to talk about is what they are. I would like to name them, how you circumvented them, and when did you first notice it? So when you either born or raised here in Vermont or came here, I know we all came with expectations of how life might be or how we should be treated. And so I want to talk about our expectations versus reality as well. So would anyone like to start? Or would you, how about you, Miss Lisa?
I can start. I'm happy to start. Yeah, so I've been, in Rutland since I was 3 months old. I was adopted. My only time out of Vermont was attending college at Temple University in Philadelphia. And then I moved back home. But I would say, growing up, I didn't really know other than like my skin and my hair, right, that I was different than others. I often heard a lot of times in high school things like, "You're the whitest Black girl I know." Again, and really not only just high school, but all throughout my life. Even going in school to school in such a multi-diverse city such as Philadelphia. That's what I heard a lot. And I think, because I've surrounded by predominantly white folks, that whatever stereotype aligns with that, that's why they, connected, I suppose, me in that way. So, things like, is your hair real? I want to touch it, or just touching it and not asking, which y'all know don't do that. So I would just say growing up, little things here and there, but in today's society, certainly I've recognized the treatment and the differences in treatment if your skin color is lighter or darker, and how that really affects us, in so many ways moving throughout our lives.
Brown bag treatment.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Which shade darker or lighter than the brown bag?
Right. Right. And then, just white folks who get a pass on saying really anything they want without being educated or, told that that's not okay. And I think that, reflects back to how do we respond to microaggressions, and we need our allies to step in and call out and interrupt, and all those things are just really important. So I'll leave it like that and give these folks a chance to respond.
The disruption, that's brilliant. Pull in your allies. Very nice. I like that. And how about you?
So yeah, being raised in Vermont and working, I've been working since I was 15. Then you don't really notice and understand. You know that you're different. I've heard, growing up, what she's saying, and is your hair real? Can I touch it? Stuff like that. But when you're young, you don't notice. You know that you're different, but you don't really understand. And then as I got older and entering into the workforce and trying to move up, I found, started to become a little bit of a problem for me. So my father always taught me to be aware of your surroundings. So I would start being more observant of what they wanted me to do. And I would tend to their needs to see, maybe if I, show them that I am this woman and I am reliable and trustworthy, I will get that position. And even in doing that, I still found myself in the same position, or even sometimes being fired and not knowing why. When I'm doing everything, I've been here for so many years, why all of a sudden am I being fired? So being stopped and not being able to move forward has been very hard to deal with where I am. And so I started to realize maybe I need to figure out a different way to go about things.
Did you hear things like you can't move up, you can move laterally or down?
It was more so, we'll move you up a little bit. So here's a supervisor position open. Cool, I'll go for that, and then go from there. And then as I put time and work, and there's better positions open. Okay, let me try for that. They know who I am by now. Position goes to somebody else. So things like that for me, I got stuck because I didn't know. I'm like, what? And I kept trying to, do what I thought they wanted from me anyways. So that way I could move up, and that wasn't working for me. So
you never got clear direction on what it would take to move up.
Right.
There's the segregation, they're keeping you just under control. Interesting.
Right.
Very good. Okay, so I love this. Thank you guys. This is tough, but you don't know what to call it. You don't have anyone telling you that this is abuse. How about you, Miss Sadia?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So, ironically enough, growing up here, I did not get the I did get called Oreo a lot.
Oh.
That one I got called.
Yeah, me too.
And but really, what all of those microaggressions had done for me, were they stifled me exploring my identity and who I was.
Yes.
Right? They rob us of
Yeah.
that freedom of having that same adolescent experience of going through that self-exploration period where we are trying to identify who we are
Mhm.
and how we want to move in the world. The world defines that for us. And they project all of those stereotypes and things onto us.
Right.
And then we have to decide whether we're going to conform and assimilate or stand out and be ourselves. And that's
Yeah.
that's a lot of pressure. You know, my child,
Yeah.
as young as, you know, when my daughter was in preschool here in Vermont, I picked her up one day. She had a sign on her neck that said, please don't touch my hair, talking about the hair touching. And so, at first I was upset, but then her teacher let me know that it was her idea
Yeah.
because she did not want her peers touching her. So she literally had a stop sign. And it was, you know, that, can you imagine picking your child up from school?
Yeah.
And there's a stop sign on their neck saying, stop, please ask before you touch my hair. Right? The things that we have to go through as women of color, as Black women in this state to experience normal everyday life, as simple as a preschool experience, it's much different, you know? And so for me, I had to work extra hard to just find my voice and be my authentic self and not silence myself and who I knew in my spirit that I was chosen to be. And that is the hardest thing that these microaggressions have done for me. But I'm so glad that I've finally gotten to a place where I've overcome that. So
Beautiful.
Thank
Now,
you.
was your daughter, after that sign wearing, did the microaggression, that type?
that's for her, yes. Yes. And it was her idea. So I was very proud of her for that.
Genius.
I think Celine is back.
All right, Miss Celine, just in time. Look at that
She about
perfect
to tap.
timing.
Look at that.
Hi, Miss Celine.
Hi, ladies. I'm sorry. How are you guys?
Thank you so much for coming on back. You came just in time. So why don't you introduce yourself? I gave you a little bio, but of course I can't do you justice. So how about you give a little intro? And why don't you, what we were talking about is when did we first notice the microaggressions that happen? I wasn't expecting us to be able to talk about the childhood ones when it started, but that's amazing that you recognize that that's as early as you did. So how about you?
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Celine Davis, and I'm very happy to be here with you ladies today. Mostly everything you read about in my bio is exactly what I am. And let's say these microaggressions. I first realized that there were microaggressions when I started working for a company in Vermont, in Barrie. And I wasn't familiar with microaggressions or microaggressions related to race. So I really just thought that everyone had bad manners, honestly. So when I first moved to New England, I was told that people weren't taught necessarily about manners. And because I'm a stickler for manners, I figured that everybody just had really bad manners, and that was, you know, the culture of New England. Well, later on, I found out that it was related to race, and it wasn't that they were just rude. They just didn't like me because I was Black. And it, to be honest, it changed my life forever.
You had to start doing things completely different.
Yeah, I had to navigate a world that I've never entered before. And that's why I'm here with you ladies, so we can talk about it.
That's brilliant, because that's what was missing for me as well, was who do I talk to about these things? You know, who can give me just one more tip to make it through the day? So this is so amazing to me, and we're gonna hopefully be able to, you know, leave people with some tools. This is fantastic. Okay.
And I just want to piggyback off what
Yes,
Celine
please.
said about not knowing microaggressions and not understanding it, because this is stuff I've been hearing since I was younger. You know, when I first heard the N-word, I was in third grade, third
Me
grade.
too. Third grade.
And you don't understand it. I had no idea what they were talking about. And so when I, you know, went home and asked my mom, what is that? What is that? And she, you know, her face was like, oh, where did you hear that? And I heard it from an adult. And then, you know, from children hearing it from the adult, it followed into school. So now the children are saying it, and teachers didn't know how to deal. They didn't know. Even it's still the same. They don't know. They don't have the tools to deal with it. They don't know what to say. They didn't know how to deal. So sometimes I ended up being even more segregated, because then teacher would be like, why don't you come up here and sit with me? So then it makes it look like, you know, you're not dealing with it, but like, you know, and even as a kid, you're like, you just don't understand, but you're like, well, why?
I didn't do
You
anything.
see it, but you don't understand it. And then as I got older and going through more situations, I realized that I'm like, okay, yeah, this is, you know, I'm big on manners as well. That's what I was taught. And that's what my mother always said, you know, they don't have any home training. So I always just thought, yeah, right. I always just thought bad manners, you know, they, you know, weren't taught right. So, you know, as you get older, then you start, you know, you're hearing it and you're still hearing it. And even from educated people, and you're like, okay, there's something else going on here, and it's not me. And then you start understanding that, you know, it is microaggressions, and these things they do have an effect on you. Yes. And then when you're younger, you know, when you're hearing it, it just turns into anger, because then you have your own, you know, I didn't have a great childhood. So I already had anger and feelings from that. So when I would hear my peers saying this word, I just wanted to fight. Because I knew, I didn't even really understand it. I knew that it was bad, and I knew how it made our people react when we did hear it. So I knew that it was bad. And my way of fighting that was to fight back, you know. And then, you know, again, as you get older, you realize that you don't have to fight with violence, of course. And there is another way that I can get my point across.
Now, how did you learn that? Was there someone, or you saw someone
do? I learned that from things that I was going through, and then also my dad just kind of sat me down and said, you can't go around yelling at everybody when somebody says something about you that you don't like. And it just something so simple of him saying that, I was like, you're right. I can't do that, you know, especially because I had a child. And so I said, yeah, you're right, I can't. So then I had to just figure out, I just, you know, went back to the drawing board and said, all right, how am I going to be seen and heard in a way that they will see me and hear me respectfully? Nice. And so, you know, you just one step at a time, really. And then you address it. And then I started to address it too as I got older, because then I could address it. You know, when you're a kid, adults really don't hear you, you know, as they should. Or, you know, if you don't have the credentials, that's what in my town, if you don't have the background or the credentials, then, you know, they're not going to look your way, because they feel like, who are you to talk to? And why should I listen? Why should I listen? I don't need to.
And it's up to you to get what you need.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is. I agree with it. It is. Yeah. But
I think you're all. Have you found, though, when they tell you that they make the hurdles a little higher for you to jump? It's like, okay, I told you, you know, you need to go work. You know, it's up to you to get what you need from so and so. And they also tell so and so now so and so makes it that much harder for you to get what you need from them.
Yeah, absolutely. I turned it into motivation. I turned it into motivation, because it was like, even they would say, oh, this is what I need from you, and I will give it to them. And still, okay, well, why am I not being seen or heard? I don't understand. Or why are we still going through the same cycle?
And there you've depleted extra energy, getting done better, faster, stronger, smarter, and you still get the same results.
Yeah.
And that only breeds depression And then, so I love this that you mentioned the fighting. Now, I was a fighter. Were you a fighter?
I was not. So I was actually going to say, honestly, it had an opposite effect on me. For me, I internalized all of that. And so it was so much, there was so much internalized racism, internalized hate, low self-esteem, lack of self-worth, lack of that I'm good enough, because that's what society was telling me, right? The world was telling me that, even though that's what we teach our children, that, and it's sad, we teach our children this because it's the truth, right? And therein lies, that's the worst part, is that we are taught we have to work 10 times as hard to be considered half as good. And everyone's like, well, you shouldn't teach your children that. But that's our reality, right? And so for me, it was severe depression and low self-esteem and lack of self-worth. And it was, severe and intense. And honestly, I did not come into myself. I was not comfortable in my skin being brown. I was not comfortable in this body until I was 28 years old, right? That is, I'm from the South Bronx. So all my sisters are light skinned. And so it was a little bit of a different experience, growing up there, because it's not the same. It's the things that happen that are unacceptable, what we know now today to be unacceptable, right? I didn't know at the time. They were social norms. They were culturally acceptable because that's how we talk to each other, right? But when you're in that environment, you don't realize that we are causing each other so much harm, right? I left New York when I was 13. I left my family, my sisters. I left my whole family and came to Vermont at 13 years old because
my dad did.
Because that's how bad it was, I was like, and it wasn't that they were intentional or callous. It was just the way they spoke to each other did not resonate within my spirit and my body and my system. And I said, this is not healthy for me, right? I don't align with this, and I need to go find my own path. And so I did, and I took that journey, and I came to Vermont, and I've been here for 26 years.
That's amazing that at such a young age, you were able to identify the third part of racism, the internalized racism.
Yeah.
Well, we took on this as our own and just, as we do, made it even bigger and better and more. That is amazing. That's a really, but it's a good, and that's when you want, America has such a love for youth, and that's when we should be exploring freely and making mistakes and finding out who we are instead of at 28 or in my case 40s.
Yeah, well, and that's what I try to explain to people today is that, right now we have so many systems and groups and advocacy and things. Even the term Black Lives Matter, right? That meant something very different for me, right? And so for me, it was like, okay, right? And so, and I tell people, the same way we advocate for LGBT youth and, and tell these children that they can and believe in them, we need to speak those same messages of love, encouragement, and empowerment into brown and Black youth, because they are missing that messaging. Not all of them, but some, and I was one, are missing that messaging, and it is very important, and it affects us on a visceral level and determines our life path, behaviors, the choices we make, who we associate with, how we engage in the world. It affects everything that we do, but people don't understand. You get labeled, or you probably got labeled angry Black woman or whatever. We're aggressors. But they don't understand it's pain.
And that's what I was gonna say. I was angry, but not because I'm Black.
No.
So that's where that's where it was. It took me a
anger
while
is a legitimate emotion.
Yeah.
Why can't we be angry?
And I still had to get to know myself even to really get that message across, that in a way where they would understand or people would understand that, yes, I am angry, but I'm not angry because I'm Black.
No, it's not something
And
that I'm born
that's,
with.
yeah, that can't even be. I was born and raised here, and there's no people like me. So that wasn't the case, you know?
Right. So you're seeing how, you're having to dance both sides. So, oh, you're very eloquent and you speak like a white girl, but, and then you have to play
And
the
you
other
learn,
role.
well, you learn how to have two faces, really. That's what I did, because I couldn't change who I was. And that's where I kept getting stuck. I kept trying to change who I was to get where I needed to go. And I'm like, okay, it's not working. I can't change who I am. So I'm gonna have to just be who they think that I am,
Yes.
and dress the part. And then when I go home, I can be me.
Yes. That's what we teach our children every day. I taught my son that in school. Like I told, like someone would talk about them pulling his hair. I was asked to cut his hair. I'm like, what? I'm not cutting my hair. You take care of those other kids, right? When my son came home, I told him to punch the kid in the throat, which you can't do, right? I was like, if it was me, that's what I would have done. And he's like, Mom, I'm not gonna hurt my friend. So I wound up with a pacifist as a child who he's like, let me handle it.
Yeah.
And he navigated it. He turned his enemies into his friends. How are these children learning these things so early? And I did not.
Yeah, and I just want to say that kind of like in the middle of these two, like and what they're saying is like, I was not a fighter, but I did have the same exact experience where somebody called me the N-word in 3rd grade, except it was another child. And I went to home to my mom and I said the same thing. What does this mean?
Yeah.
I had no clue. So I resonate totally with that. And I'm 32 years old. I'm still working on being comfortable in my own skin, in natural hair, in a white society. Like that is going to be a lifelong commitment that I need to make to myself, because I'll tell you right now, I tried so hard to just be white, because that's the only option I thought there was.
Right.
I'm like, okay, keep chemically straighten my hair, I want the long foot, I didn't really like come into diversity until I went to Philadelphia and I saw other women that looked like me. I'd always wanted to have, natural hair and things like that, but I never would have been comfortable enough to do that here in Rutland, Vermont.
Or find the products.
That's a whole nother,
No,
that's
we
a
can-
whole
we
nother.
travel for that.
Celine's been resonating with all
All
of this.
right, Miss Celine.
I know.
She said,
she
girl,
like,
come on.
yes. I see
Yeah.
the scroll on her face, like this,
Ooh,
all the stuff she has to say.
please, yes, take over.
I'm just taking in, thank you. I'm just taking in everything that you ladies are saying, and man, well, what I can say is that when I moved to Vermont, it was like a whole nother world to me, because I didn't grow up around racism, maybe around some colorism, maybe not being accepted culturally into, with my people, because, I articulate too well. So I was always the white girl, I like camouflage and country rock. So I was never really accepted in my own culture. And only to move to Vermont and find out that I'm not accepted in theirs either. And theirs is primarily just because of the pigmentation of my skin and nothing more.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can resonate with all of you ladies when you say that you tried to conform or make yourself white at one point, because that's what I see in Vermont. Like a lot of African Americans want to remove any remnants of their Blackness because it's too much for here. I've been told, if I wear, I had on a blue Gap jogging suit one day and someone told me I look like a drug dealer.
What?
I've had a lady tell me that how does it feel to meet somebody with hair like yours? And she was basically saying that her hair was nappy and so was mine because I was Black. And what I realized at the point where I tried to change myself and conform to the whiteness of Vermont, I realized that I didn't like it. And I'd rather just be myself. But it's really hard being a Black woman in general. And then when you get to Vermont, it's really hard to be a Black woman because nobody likes you. I've never been to a place where Black men look at you like you're nothing and treat you like you're nothing. I've never been in a place where a lot of the people who look like me are scared to be themselves. So growing up in the Midwest, in a diverse environment, it was a culture shock to come to Vermont and see white people cross the street when they see me, or, you know, avoid me and my family like we're the walking coronavirus, or for people to say some of the things that they've said. So unlike you ladies, I didn't grow up in Vermont. So me moving to Vermont and seeing how segregated it was, or how African Americans were treated, minorities, or just especially the Black women, it was shocking to my life. And I just I went through so much there. I just applaud you ladies for staying in there as long as you have, because I can't. Because it seems like if you choose to stay in Vermont, that eventually you'll have to conform. And it's like there's no way around it. Like, you will have to conform. You will never be able to be truly yourself, because you can't go outside and be truly yourself there. Everyone treats you like you're just like an alien beamed off the top of the, you know, earth somewhere. And I just really have no understanding of it. And still to this day, I'm trying to figure out like what is going on there and why. The state of Vermont is essentially a little bit over 600,000 people. The city that I'm from is over 700,000 people. So I can't understand how there can be a culture of racism embedded into an entire state.
Yes, that's brilliant. I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was one of my questions. Being so highly educated, you could go anywhere and make way more money and have a bigger house and better car and lots of friends. And why are we choosing to stay in Vermont?
So I can talk on that. Being from Vermont, I just want to say that I'm not here to bash Vermont, because like I said in my bio, am Vermont strong. Vermont State has helped me get me to where I am. Maybe not so much my town. My town has let me down, but the state of Vermont has been there for me. When adults around me were not. So because my childhood was so crappy and there was so much neglect, education played a huge role in why I stayed here. And I especially understand it more so now. But I did get to a point, Celine, where I said, yes, I gotta go.
Right.
I have to go because I can't, there's nothing more I can do here. I can't progress forward. I'm stuck as far as even educating myself and figuring out who I am and what I can do for my people. And I just felt like, and also having children, I felt like I needed them to be more cultured. I needed to expose them to more than what Vermont could give us. And I did. I left and I moved to Illinois, and it was great. And but unfortunately, things happened, and I had to end up coming back, and I was not happy. It was probably one of the lowest points in my life, because you know, to accept that defeat and not knowing what my next move is going to be, because I felt like I had explored everything that I could. I had done everything I could. There's no way that what am I going to do? Go backwards? No, I can't do that. But I have to go home. So in coming home, it actually ended up opening a lot of doors for me. Again, education saved me, because I said, you know what? maybe I am enough. Let me see. Let me try and go. I have a little credentials, you know, in education. Let me go do what I've been wanting to do since a little girl, which is give back and do something. I now have the tools. I know what I'm doing. I know who I am. So let me just try it. You know, you are your own worst enemy. So I definitely have been one to hold myself back too. And so once I decided to let that go, I went into the education field and they gave me a chance.
Wow.
And so in that is how I ended up here. I met Mia, and in meeting her, she has has presented opportunities to me like this too, and her husband. And now I know that I made the right moves because I wasn't exposed to this. And also we didn't have this either. And now even in my job, which is teaching, they're even having trainings. They put on trainings, equality and diversity, and I thank them too. I thank them in our Zooms because I didn't get that. We didn't get that at our job. We didn't, you know, and the fact that they're acknowledging it and they're saying, they're giving the platform and saying, come talk about it.
That's
So
where we
help
can say
us
thank you,
figure out,
Vermont.
you know, what not to say, what does hurt you. And so I thank them for that.
Do you realize you were probably a catalyst in that?
Absolutely. And I say to that, use me.
Nice.
Because
Whew.
I've always, as a kid, I was always told to shut up, be quiet, mind your business.
Being not heard.
And so I think that is what really, and as I got older, and I could never shut up. I always talk. You know, even my teachers, you know, Tawana, okay, it's time to, and that's never been me. So, but as I got older, I realized that I do have a voice and I need to learn how to use it.
The voice.
And so I say to you, Celine, that I said to them, you're gonna have to take me as I am. This is who I am. I'm not gonna change. Let's work together. And if we can't work together, then we will separate, because then again, that's where the anger comes in again, and that comes out, the angry Black woman. And I don't want to give them that. And I'm not. So
So sometimes
it's either work together or we don't.
Yeah, you have to
But
take
you're not
that
gonna stop
chance.
me from me wanting to go where I need to go.
And the mobility, taking that power back to say, yes, I will leave you.
Right.
And that's huge. Yes, Miss Lisa.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say that, yeah, I could be anywhere I want to be today geographically. But like I said, I've been here since I was 3 months old. I went away for college to experience more diversity. And that was actually a culture shock to me. Going to Philadelphia was a culture shock for me, because I didn't see so many diverse folks anywhere else, certainly not here, right? Vermont, similarly to what you said, has paved the way in some ways. I've been let down by my city, by folks in the city, by folks in the state, but there's a lot of really great people doing really, really great work to make it more inclusive for everybody. You know, my family is here. That's mainly why I'm here. All my family's here. I met my husband here. We bought a home here. So those things are really, really important to me. And just knowing that there are options. I don't know if I'll be here, you know, for the rest of my life living here. I never pictured it, but things happen, and I graduated college and I came home, and you know, so you never know where life's going to take you. But I certainly think that there's a lot more work to be done. But we have we're doing some good stuff here in the state, and I thank everybody who's been involved in that.
I'd like us to be able to see some of the benefits from the work, but you know, maybe that's not ours. Maybe this is for the future. How about you, Miss?
I see we have a 5-minute warning.
Oh, do we already?
Yeah.
Oh
so
my
I'm gonna go really, really quickly. No, that's all right. And so, and I'll be done in 5, less than 5.
Girl, I'll give you a whole next segment, too.
And so basically, I just wanted to segue in, and you know, this notion that we conform and assimilate, right? So who I am, the articulate, poised, well-spoken young person you see in front of you today, not so young, whatever.
Young baby.
It's all in perception. Yeah.
I like it.
That's who I've been, right? And so that is why I did not fit in when I was in the Bronx, right? That's not, you know, everyone thought I was trying to be something I was not, right? But no, there is a such thing as Black excellence. And I've strived for Black excellence since I was a child. That's the way I was raised. It was instilled in me. We were taught to be great. We were taught to learn and study and do well academically. And so the notion that to be educated or to speak articulately is white. We need to change that narrative because that is not exclusively to white people. People of color have the same, you know, we are entitled to those same characteristics. And that is where society has failed us, right? Because they try to define the narrative and shine the light on who we are and how we get to engage in the world. And if we don't conform to what they say, right, then we're trying to be something else.
Yeah.
But we have the right to be us. And that doesn't mean we're trying to be white, right? And I choose to stay in Vermont because of the land. When I came here, when I came to Vermont from New York City, I experienced a level of freedom that I did not know. I'm very empathic. So when I was in New York City, I was labeled as depressed or sensitive or crying all the time. And I didn't learn. I was picking up on all these energies around me.
Yeah.
And so here I am, this little girl, and I'm like, I'm always crying. I feel so much pain.
Yeah.
I feel so much anguish. And I couldn't figure out what it was. It wasn't even me. And let's not forget epigenetics is real.
Yeah.
Okay. So then there's that.
Yeah.
Right? And so I came to Vermont and I could breathe. And despite the people have failed me, I do have some great allies. I will say that. I have some great allies. I do have some great people in my corner, in my community that are advocating, not just for me, but for all BIPOC community members and all BIPOC Vermonters.
World peace.
Right? So they're fighting the good fight. And so for
Yes.
that, I stay because I love this land. Vermont is my home.
Yes.
And they will not drive me out.
No.
That's
Yeah.
right. They will not
right.
drive us out.
See, so that's why I was
Vermont
hoping we
is
could,
my
you know,
home.
what would
Our home.
Miss Celine need from us? Because she's not going to get it from the microaggressors. But it is available here. So we found resources, we found allies, we found information, we had to navigate. And I would like us all to, you know, share that information so that maybe Miss Celine will stay. Or we can draw more people. All right, we only have 1 minute. Amazing, ladies.
Thank you.
Next segment, we're going to maybe take a question from our audience. And then I would like to talk further on the subject of, you know, next steps, you know, where do you see your careers in the future? And what do you think it's going to take for us to get there?
In the last 30 seconds before we pop off, I just don't want Celine to feel like, you know, I don't want to gaslight you the way that you probably have felt you have been.
Yeah.
And so I will say this, because I did hear you, and I want you to know that you were heard.
Yes,
And I would like to say that the dissonance and the distance between Black people in Vermont and Black Vermonters and BIPOC Vermonters is real. And so only recently have we had these spaces and these opportunities. And I'm grateful for them and blessed. But so I don't want you to think like, oh wait, where are their support?
Oh,
I
no.
don't know. That is not. I feel you on that, and you
Yes.
are heard and validated because that is very real.
Brand
So
new.
as we take this next break, I just wanted to leave you with your feelings are real. They are valid. I'm sorry you felt you had to leave, but we support you and we believe in you. in all of your
And
endeavors.
wherever
here.
you go, we're here for you.
Yes.
Stay in contact. We need you to come visit. We need to come visit
That's right.
you. You know. All right. I think this is a good place to break.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. You guys are so amazing. Wow. All right, we're back. Thank you for joining us. So what I would like to do at the top of this is to speak to Miss Celine. I would like to give her the opportunity to address some of the items that we had spoken about earlier that she didn't get to talk about. Miss Celine, you want to take it away?
Thank you. I wanted to say that I appreciate everything that you ladies said. And I don't want to bash Vermont, but if I knew that you guys were here, maybe I wouldn't have left. But for me, being from a place where people value family, I got really scared because of all the things that happened to me. And so I felt like I had nobody, and that's why I left. I'm sure that there are very good things in Vermont, and one of the reasons that I moved to Vermont was to read the law. And I've always dreamed of moving to Vermont ever since I was a little girl. And yes, I knew that there were a lot of white people there, but it was okay for me because I grew up around a lot of white people as well. But my story is kind of the way that the systematic racism works in Vermont. And that's from A to Z. And that's what made me came forward. And that's what made me leave and why I'm sitting here today. I came to Vermont and I started working at a company, and it was called Collaborative Solutions. And a lot of bad things happened to me, including me being left on the floor for 3 hours while I was in labor. Only for me to go home to a place every day where me and my kids were called the Black people, or my neighbors constantly stopped my son because he's a 5'7" Black boy. Or for even my landlord to accuse all the Black people that come into the building of belonging to me. Only to go to a store every day where me and my kids had to experience racial discrimination as well, for no reason. Only to start a new job where I had to experience the same thing. Because what I've come to realize is that everyone in Vermont knows each other, and that's what's scary. Everyone is a cousin or a sister or went to school together, even down to the attorneys. So when you're faced with things like that, everywhere you go, there is this racism or this form of hate against you. And then you get so desperate that the only thing that can make you feel safe is a lawyer, only for lawyers to tell you that they play golf with these people or they know these people. That is discouraging enough, and it's scary, on top of you feeling like you don't have any people.
Right.
So even though Vermont has a lot of great things to offer, and I see the things, like, me being from a dangerous city where you have to dodge bullets all the time, me walking around and not having to carry a gun, or, being able to leave my door unlocked and not have to worry. That feels safe for my children not to have to hear, ambulances every night. It feels real safe to someone like me, only to know that after I spend a life of dodging bullets and, in my life, that I had to go somewhere else and learn how to dodge something called racism that I've never experienced before in my life. Growing up, being raised by a white father and a Black mother. So what I experienced in Vermont changed my life forever. And I will never be able to unsee the things that I've seen there, or nor understand what kind of hate for someone's skin color will allow you to leave a pregnant woman in the floor. So yes, ladies, I believe that things will change in Vermont. But honestly, after everything that I went through before I got to Vermont and what I experienced in Vermont, Vermont doesn't seem very safe to me. And me going down a rabbit hole that was so deep and almost made me lose my mind is why I left Vermont. So, yeah.
And you were absolutely right. It's exactly like that.
And we don't think that you are bashing Vermont at all. I want to make that very clear. And I don't want you to think any other way when we say, we're not up here to bash Vermont. That's my motto in general. I don't want to bash anybody. So I don't want you to think that we are negating what you're saying in your story, because that's not the case at all. And we hear you.
'Cause this is generational after generational racism. I mean, and these are people who are related to each other. The nepotism in these businesses that you're finding, you know, they hold these positions for generation after generation. So it's of course, you know, it's going to be taught down the line.
And Celine, like, if I went through even, you know, a fraction of those types of experiences you did, I would be gone too. And second, make no mistake, Vermont is racist. All of it. All of it.
Built into the system.
It is so traumatic sometimes to be in all of these white spaces in Vermont when you're just trying to get by and live your life. Again, probably the only thing keeping me here right now is my family.
Two things, yeah.
And I also grew up with a white family. I was adopted into a white family. So that was another thing I had to deal with, answering to people, you know, what made your parents adopt? And then, you know, insinuating, well, what made your parents adopt a black baby? You know, it's like, sometimes it is just too much and you have to just take care of yourself and do what you need to do for you and your family. And I am sending you love and strength and hugs.
Absolutely.
And I wish that I could hug you in person right now.
And Miss Celine, Vermont is yours. No matter where you go, you are coming back if you want to. I'll give you space, my space.
Yeah.
Okay?
And final piece before we go to the questions, I just want to say you're not alone. You are not the only person who experienced those types of harshnesses, and we need to have a panel about birthing and Black women's experiences, and the racism and systemic racism and medical racism that happens, because girl, we can exchange some stories.
Our children are used against us.
You know, and I mean, as far as like from vandalism to my vehicle to my children threatened to be hung from trees, it is real, it is deep, and it happens. You know, they call not only us names, but our children, and that is the problem, right? And so, and I want to say a lot of these businesses they're doing, and this is where I call people in with love, and I call them out too. It's a yes and, it's both.
Right.
Right, yes and.
Yeah.
And so a lot of them are using the language, using all the key language, diversity, inclusion, equity, all these things. When you talk to the children in these schools and you talk to the people in these businesses, in these practices who are experiencing and living it, it doesn't feel as if what they're doing are true. The practice has not come to fruition yet.
Right.
Yet.
Right.
I want to say yet. This is new. This is new. And so I want to say, you are not alone. And I wish we had met sooner.
I know.
And thank you for sharing your story. But you are not alone. And your feelings your experiences are valid, and they are real. And they are not isolated incidences, because they happen to many of us.
Yes.
Yeah.
You definitely made the right
Exactly what you ladies are saying is what made me come forward. Was because I figure if I'm as strong as I am, and I'm the strongest person that most people know, and it broke me down that way. And I was only there for less than 2 years, and all these things happened. What's happening to the real people who've been there their whole lives, or the people who choose to stay? Those are the people that I came forward for, because what about them? If this happened, I'm sorry, like, it's just.
Miss Celine,
don't
may
be
I
sorry.
thank you for what you did and what you said. I sent my son away so I could do this work. I sent him out of the state, and he hasn't been away from me since his birth. I sent him away to do this work, and it was the right thing to do. And what you did was the right thing to do. Don't ever question what you're doing. That's
Don't
how.
be sorry.
Yeah, no.
Don't be sorry.
I just feel like that I'm allowing the things that happen in Vermont to strip me of my dreams. I moved to Vermont to read the law. I have to live there for at least 3 years in order to take the bar exam.
And that is the first thing that would come to your head. So
Yes.
That is the first thing. They always make us look at ourselves and say, and what are we doing wrong? What can I do better?
What
And
can
then
you
you
do?
realize, like, wait a minute, I'm fine.
Mm.
I'm fine. So, yeah, you have support.
Thank you.
I would like you to start dreaming again
Yeah.
and reach out to these beautiful women that we got to meet and figure out how to make that dream happen again.
Yes.
And I think probably too, I don't want to speak for you, but because we are from here, been here so long since we were young, I think, it's probably a little easier for us because we know the ins and out of Vermont. And we know where the loopholes are or where we can say, ooh, let me be a couple steps ahead and do this. So that way, at least I'll be okay for a little bit until, we get slapped in the face with it again. But at least now I have put myself in a position where I am going to be heard, whether you want to hear me or not.
That's right.
And you'll find you speaking up now the next time's going to be easier, and the next time's going to get easier, and your voice is going to get louder and more powerful and strong.
Yep. There's powers in numbers, which is why I'm here.
If it was up to me and I didn't have children or a safe place for them to be, I would have definitely stayed to fight the good fight. But with today's times changing, I don't want to put my kids in that position because that's not what I brought them there for. I have to make sure they're safe.
Yeah.
But believe me, I entertained it, but then I thought about it like, my kids don't deserve this. They don't deserve to have to, be nervous every day because their mom chooses to stand up for what's right.
Nice.
Because and the fear behind that was how many people pulled away from me when they found out that this didn't just happen, but I'm coming forward and I'm saying something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because what I want people to understand, this isn't about money, isn't about fame. I'm not an activist. Vermont did that to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
The simple reason that I came forward was really because of me almost losing my mind and contemplating leaving my kids because I was so broke down and mentally distraught behind what happened to me, my hair falling out, losing weight, rocking in my room like a mental patient, because I couldn't understand racism or why this was happening to me. My family thinking that I'm crazy because they don't understand the remnants of racism because they're from the Midwest too. So just imagine like not having any type of support, and then the people who I'm supposed to lean on aren't necessarily locking step with me.
Yeah.
I resonate with that, Celine.
Yeah.
I think there's some questions. If you're ready.
Do you have the questions? No.
Thank you, Celine.
I asked Miss Caitlin to maybe she can send them to Facebook Messenger. Miss Lee, I do thank you for that. It's got to be hard because what that reminded me of, Harriet Tubman having to leave behind her brothers.
Yeah.
And continue. So you had to save yourself. That is such a powerful story. You did it, and I'm very proud of you.
Yeah, I'm proud too that you are going to continue to speak out, even though you left. You're still not going to be shut up, and I appreciate that, and that's needed because even still now having these conversations and picking back up what she said about work and how they're having these trainings, and even just a couple of days ago, one of my colleagues says, I'm tired of talking about it. And and it's like, I'm the type of person where I see things from both sides. So on one hand, yes, I understood what she was saying. But on the other hand, I understand what she's saying because I am the person talking about it. So I'm looking at her and I'm saying, well, how do you think we feel?
I was gonna say, we're tired of talking about it too. We want to see some action.
I said, I'm tired of talking about, we're tired of talking about it too, but it's necessary. It's the same thing as if you're a parent,
Right.
you get tired of being a robot, of course, saying the same things over and over and over again, but it doesn't mean that you should stop doing it.
All relationships,
Yeah,
as soon as
exactly.
you solve the issue, we won't have to talk about it anymore.
So, I mean, so that made me think like maybe they're really not, are they even listening?
Who knows? But let me tell you, the only safe people here in Vermont are the white people.
Yeah.
That's it. None of us are safe here.
No.
None of us are safe here.
And I've been in this
I
situation.
just wonder why they need so many strategic plans just for them to learn how to be humans.
Right.
Well, I think the thing is that Vermont is so old, right? And a lot of people that are in power in Vermont are the same people. And again, that goes to same families and everything running in the same circle.
Or we could
And
talk
they
about
don't want,
white supremacy culture, period. You
Yeah.
know, it's set
They don't
up to
want
be
that to
very,
change.
very structured like that. You've got
they
to
want it,
go
they
through
stay
the
how
levels.
it is, and they're comfortable, so that's how they want it to stay.
And it's kind of crazy that they would do that to their economy, considering the fact that Vermonters are not reproducing fast enough, and that's why they're inviting us here. But they don't want us here.
Right, and even people like me who are here, I'm saying I am one of you. How? I don't understand. I'm confused. Why are you turning me away? And I am you. I am this state. I am part of this community.
Okay, so we have a question. A few people are asking, how can schools address systemic racism and microaggressions, and at what age to start?
Wow. Well, being in the education field, I'll first to answer that. The schools are figuring it out as well now. And so I don't know how far it's going to go. I don't know if the curriculum will change, because of course that's where we should be starting. We should stop lying to our children, so that way they will be ready and prepared and know how to deal with what's happening. Because I mean, honestly, I don't want to be negative, but I don't think it's going anywhere. But I think that the schools are being more involved, at least in Vermont, and where I am anyways, starting, from younger with preschool, and just incorporating more books, different play,
And
including
community
cultures.
getting involved and attending
Community,
those
yeah.
board meetings, because I am seeing our DEI coordinators in the schools being hamstringed and, not
Yeah,
and told what to do.
Yeah.
Isn't that what you hired the expert to do? So I'm finding that a lot, that Black people expertise is being replaced with opinion. And so every time I mention something, someone will throw out their opinion as fact. So I'm having to navigate that kind of stuff.
There's a lot of layers. So
Yeah.
in Lamoille County, we have a group called Real Schools. I just ran for school board. I lost. I had 1,083 votes. It was a really good election. It was close call. I ran against a classmate. It was a really clean, my first political experience, and it was beautiful. And I'm so grateful for that.
Congratulations.
However, just because I wasn't elected doesn't mean I stopped doing the work.
Right.
We are in the transition of a new superintendent, and we already have a meeting scheduled. He's not even in office yet, but we have a meeting scheduled for as soon as he does.
Yeah.
Right. And so it takes people getting involved to do the work. It takes, and not only these trainings, right? Because what happens is you have all of these trainings that people go through and they check boxes. Oh, I did this implicit bias training. I'm not racist. I don't have any bias. I'm okay, right?
You did that too?
right. Oh no, I did this. I did the training. But where it's missing is things like this. When you have the similarities, we know how brown and Black children are treated, addressed, and handled compared to, and I use the word handled because that is the word, in comparison to their white counterparts, right? So
Yes.
whereas a child who is white in the education system here will have behavioral challenges, learning disabilities, and all of these other things, and meanwhile, our brown and Black children are aggressors, misbehaving. They have to call police on these children who are literally doing age-appropriate behaviors similar to their white counterparts, or having challenges similarly. And so when people are doing these DEI work, and then teachers are saying, teachers are overwhelmed, and which I understand, you can't be everything. That is not the way it was intended, and that is fair, which is why we need to include mental health and awareness and create spaces in these education systems. And the question said, how young? as early as preschool.
Right.
We're and
That's
just
where we
just like
are,
you
yeah.
said, why we have so many strategic plans to teach people how to be humans? Be good people, make good choices, right? We're talking about humanity. Humanity has no age, right? And true, honest, accurate history.
Right.
We've been taught fallacies for so long
Right.
that people think this is true.
We're growing up confused. Our youth is growing up
Exactly.
confused.
So that's where it starts.
Right.
And I would say it takes getting involved, and most importantly, is BIPOC Vermonters, your students, your parents, speak up
Yes.
because they think these things are not happening. Our school district thinks they're doing all this great work, but yet right before April break, a third grader was assaulted, a racist assault, kicked in the back, and physically and racial slurs hurled at him in our school district. But yet our schools are doing all this great DEI work, right? So we need to make sure not only are the teachers checking themselves and making sure that, oh, how am I labeling this child as confrontational or refusing to do work when they are literally struggling and having a hard time and there's something else going on? Or am I being racist?
Well, let's
You know?
call it.
Let's
out.
call it what it
You
is.
know, that we have racist teachers. I've had to face one down myself, and and said, oh, and when you get the excuse of, oh, maybe the teacher's just having a communication difference with a child. I said a grown-up's having a communication difference with a third grader. I was like,
Right.
okay, and we've got bigger issues now.
Yeah.
Now you and I are going to have some communication issues. So yes, so Miss Celine, what would it look like? What would it look like for you to come back to Vermont? I want to, like, a home in a school district with more BIPOC children, type of employment. We got to visualize this, and we can make it happen.
Has it been a thought?
Yeah,
Have you had that thought of, I know there's a lot going on, you have a lot going on, but have you had the thought of, could I come back? If I had certain things in place, would I go back?
I considered it, but I wouldn't want to bring my kids back. My kids absolutely do not want to return to Vermont.
Okay.
No.
And my problem, like, I have a problem with their school district as well. My son goes to school in Montpelier, and they tried to fail my son after I asked for counseling and resources. And I asked them, I said, my son can't get counseling for trying to cope with the racism that he's experiencing being this overgrown big black boy, that you guys call him. But you have white kids getting counseling to deal with COVID, to be at home with their parents.
That's right.
And so what nobody up here knows is that during my time of running from racism from Vermont, a couple weeks ago, my son fell into a diabetic coma. A couple days after this story came out, a couple weeks after the story came out, my son read the story and stayed up all night eating. And the next couple days, he was going into a diabetic coma, and I didn't know. The school district only decided not to fail my son because the actual counselor that I had been asking for almost 2 years was actually on the phone when he passed out. Because I told them that my son was eating his feelings away because he couldn't cope being in school. And the one ally that he had in his school was his Black principal, who told me that he got used to the racism in Vermont, but he just recently quit.
Oh, see, we need our allies to put their
So
bodies.
it's kind of like a lot of people were trying to do a lot of things until they realized the magnitude of what they were doing. And then that story came out about me and my family and what we were experiencing. So when I tell you that it's woven into the culture, it is, because it's everywhere.
It is.
I would love to be in a community where it's okay for more than two of us to stand around and actually be able to barbecue without somebody calling the police.
Right.
I like to be able to play my rap music just like all the white people that I see playing their rap music. But when we play it, it's wrong.
Or our rap music.
Yeah.
So it's like being in Vermont is a double standard when it comes to the education and everything there. And it's very hard to be authentically yourself there. And that's what I value about everything in my life, myself, people, and in my experience, there's just a lot of, inconsistency and
It's true, Vermont is
Yeah.
not conducive
have that
to
support.
joining.
Yeah.
You have to pretty much forge your
they're
own
not, right.
path.
Yeah.
Create
And
your
that's
own.
why I said they want to stick with what
That's
they
the-
have, and any outsider is not welcome.
The segregation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is amazing. We had just the one question.
That was it.
That was amazing. Were there two? There was more questions? Yeah, so I want to talk about, the future. It's going to be up to Black women to forge the future of Vermont. And you know what? The law is going to be the way I see, so we need to have more BIPOC lawyers in Vermont, because that seems to be what works so far, I'm finding. We may have to sue during the we may have to keep suing every time, because she could have died and her son could have died.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk about this very real feeling I'm feeling right now. I could feel my body just the anger just coming up,
know.
and the rage. I was shaking, and I try not, and I don't want to be the mad Black woman.
No, but because we relate. That's why. So it's crazy to hear that. I mean, we already don't see enough of us. So when we do, and we're meeting new women, and we hear that it's the same
Same.
story,
Same.
just different scenarios, it's just mind-boggling.
The
It
depression.
really is. Because, again, with the education too, I am in the education field. And even, again, where I was saying earlier, no matter what I do, I'm still not looked at. I'm still not respected, because here I am in the education field and having troubles with my son's school. And him not being able to, they put something in his bag for education. Of course, yes, let's get you a step ahead. Never gets taken out of the bag. And we're not allowed in the schools because of COVID. So the only communication is emails, or, you say to your kid, tell your teacher you have something in your bag. Of course, they'll forget, but you keep saying it. And here we are weeks later, and principal comes out and says, oh, it's full. Well, let's figure out what we can do about that then, because I'm not allowed in there. So we only have so much communication. Why wasn't this paper taken out of his bag?
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm finding that a lot. It's like Black BIPOC people are not given that additional piece of information that everybody else gets. I guess they just assume that we've got it all handled and we know.
Right, and why would you put it in there then, only to not check to see if I signed it and returned it?
Our children aren't given the same consideration as the other children.
Yes.
Like they don't value our children the same.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that, there has been so many different ways that I try to block this and not call it for what it is, which is racism.
Call it
I've
out.
tricked my mind a million times, but at the end of the day, they don't like us because of us being Black. Our children are treated different. We are treated different. Like, everything is a double standard when it comes to and especially education, because even as an adult student, I just had an issue with my school, and I told them that if they did what they did to me again, I was going to sue them. Because one thing about me, I'm not marching. You're not going to be hitting me with rocks while I am. So I'm going to hit you where it hurts, because they only care about money. That's what they care about. But I'm not going to let them keep doing that to me. And the other problem about the diversity in school is that we have white people trying to tell Black people how they feel.
Right.
All these diversity and equity boards, there are no Black people. How can you, never being Black or being around a Black person or having a Black child, tell me how a Black person feels?
That is
Or telling me because you have a tan baby at home that you're not racist and you understand you're lock and step with me as a Black mom. No, you're not.
Yeah.
these, and Black children are being tokenized in many of these situations.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been so many stories across the state of Vermont with BIPOC students and the harassment or the plays that they need to, act on in school where they're actually the slaves. I mean, give me a break. The whole curriculum needs to be changed, and schools need to do the work. And that includes parents, admin, teachers, because it has to be top down. It can't start at the students. The teachers and the parents and the admin are the ones who should be utilizing resources in their communities of folks who do DEI work like I do, and like many of us here, to actually try and make these changes.
And and learning about what they're teaching.
Exactly.
In whose right
can't just have
mind
a-
would you have a Black child act out a slave part?
I was gonna say, and that's
in what world?
and that's what's going on in our schools, and
My
it's like,
God.
And I'm calling on the community too, though. I mean, your tax dollars are funding these schools. So you should be out on these boards and finding out what is being taught in these schools. You know, I'm calling on our allies to
But
get
you
in.
know what the problem is when folks try to do this work, BIPOC folks, the community looks at you as, she's racist. I've been called a
Get
a
turned around
Black
on you.
racist
Ooh,
on a
that's the new
number of
thing.
occasions.
Yep.
What is that? What does that mean?
And then I
Because
just have
I'm
to
trying
shut
to
them down.
educate the community, the schools, the systems, and hold them accountable. All of a sudden, I'm a Black racist.
yes, because they don't want to deal with it. They don't care too.
Okay, we got an interesting question. Are there any micro affirmations that white people can do to show support? Like, what's the opposite of crossing the street? What have individual Vermonters done that have made you feel most validated, listened to, or supported? That's one. And then we'll have, the next question will be, I heard someone say, use me in discussions, training about race. I hesitate to ask anyone to be the representative of all BIPOC, but would really value your life experience expertise. What would be a way of including, engaging, following you in training that would be welcome?
Pay us.
That girl, yes. Pay Black people. Pay us.
Pay us the same way that you're paying these other diversity consultants. How is somebody consulting about being Black if they're white?
Right.
Exactly.
Correct.
And allow us to sit on the boards and the committees and actually have a voice.
Right.
Believe in us.
And life experience credit is often more valuable than a degrey.
Yes.
Remember that too, right?
Right. And that's why I say pay us.
Pay
Because
us.
for all of us sitting here, and Celine, a lot of this is traumatic. It's bringing up stories and memories and times in my life where I've been stalked, harassed, everything you name, because I'm trying to hold people accountable and ignite change in this community. And when they're resistant, why I'm trying to move on.
Right. Why you're trying to move on from what just happened.
Right.
Or while you're experiencing it on a daily level, on a continual daily level,
still
while you're
sad.
living it, while it's in real
yeah.
time.
That's
And I
right.
explain to people all the time, I'm doing the Cornell Diversity and Inclusion Certificate Program, right?
Nice.
Yeah, and it's really good, by the way,
Yeah.
just saying. That was not a
Cornell.
plug, but whatever. But I'm doing that because those credentials, right?
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
that when I show up in a room, I can get that same, I can be like, listen, you're not just hiring a Black woman to come in and teach you about diversity. I
Right.
actually am trained and have a certificate in this, right?
Yes.
And so, but why do we have to take that extra step when we have this lived
life
experience? So
Yeah.
that's what I
We
have
do
to
have
do.
the
right?
credentials.
And so,
Yeah.
that's what we have to do for that, but also while doing it while living in real time.
Mm.
And I will say to the people who are questioning, how do you affirm? What are some affirmations just as it was said, I heard over here the whispers, say hello, greet, acknowledge, treat people like humans, see the humanity
Yeah.
in the people around you. Check yourself and say, oh, did I say something that was, if you notice a shift in someone's mood or behavior, ask yourself, did I have something to do with that? Because probably you did.
Yeah. It's about, being them being accountable too.
Right?
And you're in proximity, care.
Yes.
And
Or
speaking,
okay.
No, go ahead, babe.
Yes, please.
No, I was just gonna say, like, what happened to see something, say something?
Mm.
When did it become cool that if your friend was a racist, you become one too? I've seen a lot of allies, and the allies are secret allies because they will never tell their white friends that what they're doing is wrong.
Yeah.
I sit on a lot of boards and committees, and the crazy thing is that a lot of the people that I sat with every day teaching diversity and equity to, they all knew what was happening to me, but they didn't help me.
yeah,
No.
yeah.
So you have to, one, be authentically anti-racist in order to teach diversity and equity.
Right.
That
You
is
have to
perfect.
understand.
That's the word,
Yeah.
anti-racist. You gotta work.
Yeah, I don't hold people responsible for the culture in which they were raised because we are all products of our environment. I hold people accountable for the decisions they make moving forward once they knew that it was wrong.
Exactly.
And that's why the name of the game for me is accountability, not money. I want people to be held accountable for what's happened to us.
Yeah.
What they're responsible for.
Yeah.
And their silence is violence, right?
It is.
And so what I often experience is people stumbling, well-intended white people whom I love dearly. But they are learning there, and I give them a lot of grace, and they give me grace, and we give each other grace, right? Impact versus intent.
Yes.
They are so well-intended, and yet the harm still comes. And what the most important thing about this, and what I try to explain when we're dealing with our white peers and allies who are doing this work with us, is that at the end of the day, you get to go home and have your dinner and watch your TV and not think. You get to choose when you want to think about anti-racism work.
Yeah.
You get to choose when or how you will engage and support people of color in the state of Vermont. I don't get to take that off.
Right.
I don't even, people might, people like, oh, I don't watch TV. I don't have time for that because I'm doing this all the time. And I do it more so if it's like, take care of you. I am taking a break very soon because I am. I need it. 3 years, I need a break. Yeah. But, but the point was, I did not feel safe. Back to that lack of safety, Celine, I did not feel safe to not be at the table. I did not feel safe to not show up and engage. I did not feel safe to have a group of white people deciding what is best for myself and my children in my community. And so that is why I showed up and I engaged and I inserted myself in so many tables. They say they don't want to give you a seat, bring your own chair. And best and believe, I show up with my own chair at many a table.
That's right.
And that's what we do. And that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
But see, that's hard for a lot of us, like me, who's an
is.
introvert. I've been
Not
here
everybody,
22 years and I don't
Right.
come outside. I
Right.
don't like the outside.
And again, it goes back to your home, how you were raised,
How
you're
I
product
was
of your
raised.
environment. And so because I was raised by all men, I lived with my father, I grew up very aggressive. So it's easy for me to show that side first. I had to learn how to get my point across non-aggressively.
But for anybody else, that would not be a problem.
No, right.
Right.
That's
It's,
right.
yeah, acceptable and normal.
And so to answer that person's question about microaffirmation, and it's just simply speaking up, being accountable. For example, I just recently went into a place to get a straight iron. I went to a shop where I knew, I'm like, okay, COVID, I want to keep it in my community, spend in my community. And I go to get me a flat iron for my hair, and I see another one for my daughter, cute little bedazzled little straightener. And I said, oh, let me get that one too. And she turns around and says, oh, what'd you get, your taxes?
Ooh.
And the receptionist and other women heard her And the face that they gave was like, they knew it was wrong. They
But
knew,
said nothing.
but said nothing.
Said nothing.
And so, of course,
Do
my first
nothing.
reaction
My
is to
God.
be like, you idiot. But I'm like, no, actually, I do work. I have a job right here in this community, and I take care of your children. So
I'd
I
have
can't
flipped it.
afford it.
Did you get
Not
your
that
taxes?
I should have to explain that. So just things like that where I just wished after, of course, after leaving, I'm thinking back in hindsight, like, I wish those women would have spoke up and said, that was rude, or why did you say it? And maybe they did. Maybe they did after I
you were
left.
gone. No, see,
But-
and that's important to.
Right, that's right. And I'm
They
like,
do it in
right,
front of you.
right. Handle
Very
it
good.
in the situation.
That's a
in the
brilliant, because that is an active, participatory, in the moment
Yeah.
action that can be
And then
taken.
it gets you angry all over again too, because now I'm like, I am from here. And these are people in my community turning and being, and it's just so easy. It just came out of her mouth so easy,
Yeah.
like with no thought. Like you must have got your taxes. Well, okay, but how do I even get taxes? That means I work, right? So
Yeah, she just had
so
to make
you
herself
saying that
feel
didn't even make any sense.
a little bit better.
Right. That's what
to-
I'm saying. It was just strictly about her, and it was just weird to me. I'm like, wow. It's just you get that slap in the face every now and again.
And then you're gone by the time you think of that good comeback.
I know.
You're
Always
like,
happens.
"Ooh, yeah, excellent. I agree with that one. Do we have more questions? No? Awesome. So are you? I have a question for you, Miss Celine. So being away from Vermont, you've been changed. You've learned some new tools. You had to become a different person, and it's gonna affect your life. So could you name maybe one tool that you think you'd like to take away from the trauma? Oh my goodness, we're only about 5 minutes
know.
left. Whoa.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Vermont woke me up. Things that I never would have considered in my life. Like, I'll never think another person is rude. The first thing that I'm gonna think of is, are you racist?
I know.
That's unfortunate, but that's the truth.
I hate that. Yeah.
It's like my eyes are open to a way where I wish they weren't, because I've never seen the world like this before. So I can say the good thing that I took away from Vermont is that I'm woke now, and I can spot microaggressions and what real racism looks like.
Yeah.
So I won't say that everything was negative, because it made me a well-rounded person, and things that I never knew before, I know now, and I know what to look out for. But it's also very scary too, because I rather just see the world the way that I did, which is as a human, because I don't like what Vermont brings, which is, it's like a gang. You have to choose who you are every day. Like, are you Black Lives Matter? All lives matter. Are you purple? Are you green? Like, who are you? I'm just used to being a human when I walk outside.
We've had, but Black women have had to navigate that since
I was gonna say that's been, and that's where the protests and things like this happen, because we have to say to them, no, we're not gonna let you do that, and this is what we're gonna do about it. And that's part of the reason why I'm here too, because to be around women and seeing what are you guys doing about it, sharing ideas.
Yes.
I can bring that back to my community.
And that's very important for me. How do we replicate and duplicate and share this information for the next person coming up?
Right.
So they can navigate Vermont.
And
Yeah.
how do we retain
Well,
BIPOC folks?
Well, what I've done is actually, since, you know how I told you guys that they're still in my dreams. Well, they are, in a sense. I don't need to read the law in Vermont, because what I've actually started is the Human First Project, which actually is dedicated to helping all the regular Black people like us, Black women, who can't afford those lawyers, or who can't get those lawyers who are the cousins of the people that we're suing, to help. So what I've spent my time doing is writing up complaints to the HRC and to the Agency of Human Services for a lot of minorities in Vermont. Just my way of giving back. Because if you don't know, you don't know. But I know. And the way that I had to navigate, I'm willing to share that information, because that's what we don't do in our community. It's free. And if you need help, I want to help you. And I don't want your money. I just want to help you feel better and feel safer.
Nice. That's what I want. That's what's going to make it. That is fantastic. Thank you for that.
Similarly, I'm trying to build systems. That's what I keep telling people. We are entitled to the same levels and systems of care as our white counterparts. However, that is not something that happens. So in the meantime, I'm working with community members and community partners on, it's a parallel duality, right? One, holding the people who are supposed to be treating us with those same levels and systems of care accountable, but in the meantime, actually creating systems of safety.
Yes.
What kind of safety networks? Because though that safety is real, and we need that, and it's not here. It does not exist.
Right.
People call me, and
us.
I'm like, I'm so sorry. I will do my best to advocate for you,
Yeah.
and I will connect you to as many resources as possible. But it does not exist, and we have to build it.
Yes.
But that should not be on our backs,
Right.
because we did not create racism,
No.
and it should not be up to us to end it. And therefore, our white allies, it is your duty to do the work and undo those systems of harm that are causing us harm. And it is our duty to work together collaboratively to support each other, help build these systems of safety, do the advocacy for each other, and help each other in our community to heal, have a sense of safety, so that we can thrive and live our best lives.
Yeah.
Because we deserve that. We are worthy of that. And it is our time to be able to enjoy and live our best lives in freedom, right?
I
Yes.
love that we are
she just
showing,
wrapped it
you
up.
shared,
I know.
or is that, 1 minute? I love, okay, so everyone want to give a last remark? I like that you shared an example. You shared an example of something that you created.
I just, last words is I'm gonna do my part, which is why I entered the education field. I'm starting with the future, because we all know that's number one. That's where we need to start, and that's how I'm giving back. I want to give it to them so that they can go spread and do what they need to do. with it.
Children are the future.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, thank you so much. I would just say, I'm not going anywhere,
Yeah.
at least right now.
Right.
There's more work to be done. Vermont is my home. My family is here.
Mhm.
I want to be here right now, but I
Yeah.
know that experiences like Celine spoke to happen every single day, and those need to be heard,
Yeah.
and that we have a lot of work to do.
a lot.
And white Vermont has a lot of work
Yeah,
to do.
they have a lot of work to do too.
A
Right.
lot. We're gonna need them to step up and step out.
And so grateful to share this space with
Yes.
all of
Thank
these
Oh,
you.
wonderful
You
Black
were
women.
wonderful.
So humble.
I wish you were here,
So
Celine.
I know.
honored.
We're sending you
Well-
I wish
off.
I could have met you.
Celine,
You're amazing. You're
Thank you.
great.
I would like you to let Sean or Mia know your address, because I got us all
Yeah.
swag bags, because people need to know how stressful this is. We're gonna have to go home and decompress.
And we want your information too, if you're willing to give, because I would love to keep in touch with you.
Of course, like one thing that I will tell you ladies is that I'm coming back to Vermont, but not with my children, but I'll be there because
We'll be
I
waiting.
don't want to walk away and not do my part.
No, you don't have to do nothing.
got a
Just come and
space.
hang out with us.
You're getting the red carpet, girl.
Yes.
Real soon.
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Don't hang
ladies.
up yet. So don't hang up. Are we done? I think we're closing
Wrapping
it
it
out.
up?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for everybody out there that was listening to and the questions.